It's time to let you in on a little secret. Actually, lots of secrets. We're talking strategy and, most importantly, return on your investment for your podcast. Welcome to Branded Podcast Secrets. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Branded Podcast Secrets. I'm your host, Erin Greger, here with another special guest. Today, I have Kelly Bonanna. Kelly, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I know. I just want to say your name over and over. I love your name so much. I don't know what it is about your name.
I love that. Bonanno. Bonanno. It means good year in French. Bonanno. I mean in Italian rather.
Okay. Well, I love it. Well, 2021 it's been all right for me, so I can't complain, but I love it. So if you don't know who Kelly is an eco lifestyle and wellness coach. Of course, she has her own podcast. That's why she's here. She's the host of the Clean Beauty Scene podcast. So Kelly, we're going to talk shop about your podcast and your business. Can you first, before we jump into your podcast, can you tell us a little bit more about what an eco lifestyle and wellness coach is?
Yes. So eco lifestyle, I do help people, live a more eco lifestyle, reduce toxic load. And like my podcast, Clean Beauty Scene, I do focus on clean beauty and cleaner living because the environmental toxins are really wreaking havoc on our health and more than people realize. But I'm also a wellness coach and I take a very holistic approach as I have for a long time. And so it's not just not using these products and not, avoiding these toxins. It's also what we're eating, what we're breathing, what we're putting on our skin. So I help people reduce toxic load, but also, a lot of people, of course, weight is an issue. So we get nutrition on point. So you're eating in the right balance. So you're fat burning. And then also we're reducing toxic load, which people don't realize. So yes, toxins contribute to an increased risk of cancer and autoimmune issues and many, many things. But also, there is a connection to our metabolism. So there's toxins known as obesogens. Yeah. And this is something that many people don't realize. It's not very much talked about. So the obesogens, they mess with your metabolism and they can cause an increase in the number of fat cells, an increase in the size. And it's chemically induced weight gain. Similar to like if you go on a medication, certain medications cause you to lose, and it has nothing to do with calories. It is. So reducing toxic load can really contribute to health. Now, of course, you're going to go clean and green and like, drop 50 pounds. No, it's, but it does, you can lose weight and it is just one component. And that's why I'm so very passionate about it. But also, my philosophy is you got to live a little and you got to be able to have your wine and chocolate and what have you. It's in balance. So, a lot of people think, especially my specialty is helping like midlife women, over 40, over 50 that are having those perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms and maybe thinking, it's age. That's why I can't get rid of this weight or why I'm having these aches and pains, why I'm having low energy or more stress. But there are so many things you can do and you don't have to throw in the towel. Like you can look your best, feel your best. It's just a few tweaks and it's just little habits and assimilating it into a lifestyle. So you're not on a diet and off a diet. That's the mission of my program is called the Body Harmony Method. So that's, what I try to impress upon people is it's not about that food. Food is bad. That food is good. It's assimilating it into, we're focusing on nutrient dense foods and we're focusing on reducing toxic load, but it's not even an overhaul. It's like, you like your toxic eye cream. That's fine. It's not about all or nothing,
So I'm curious, I'm going to go down just a tiny rabbit hole here, but how does that work if you're virtual and teaching people? Because I would think there's the obvious ones, my eye cream, this certain thing, these things I do, perfume, all that stuff. That's very obvious. But how do you go about that? Because I would think there's so many toxins in the air and around us that we don't even think about, but could be having a massive effect on us. So how do you teach that if you're not physically like in their home or experiencing what they experience on a daily basis to be able to be aware of all these?
It's actually very easy to do virtually. There's many things that we can do in our house, methods, tools, habits, and also things we eliminate, but also things we start doing that reduce toxic load. What it does is it can detoxify the indoor environment. And so because our indoor environment is actually typically up to 10 times more polluted than outside. So,
It's It's
So
crazy.
I know it's crazy. There's a lot of household things that are contributing to a lot of disease and cancer. So that's why, and then just little things you do around the house can really make a big difference. And that can all be taught virtually. Certain. I mean, yes, in the past, before the pandemic, you can go into someone's house and, but you can make switches and changes. In fact, I have a workshop course that takes you through detoxifying your house. And then of course I do that in my programs too, but it doesn't have to be as difficult as it sounds. I think people think of like clean beauty and eco-friendly living, like nutrition and weight loss. It's overwhelming and I don't have time. I don't want to learn it. And so I try to make it simple, take away the overwhelm. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sometimes we were talking before we hit record and I told you my husband's a chiropractor and sometimes he's such a buzzkill because he's like, don't light the candles and don't. I'm like, no, like I need the candles. So, I know how bad all that stuff could be for you.
Well,
but,
he's right.
Okay.
The candles, they emit a lot of toxins, but there are a lot of clean candles. That's another thing. That's a great thing is there's so many alternatives now, even more than 5 years ago. Like when I first started this whole journey over a decade ago, it was slim pickings. It was hard. Now, like I have, so many things I can recommend to people with the household and clean, beauty and all that. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a one size fits all,
No, absolutely not. I know some people are going to be more sensitive to others, but let's jump into your podcast because you're a coach. I know too, you're a speaker. You do all these great things in helping spread the word about your business and what you do. So I would love to know that point of where you're like, I need to create content. I need to, reach more people. I feel the podcast is what I should be doing. So I'd love to know that part of where you were in your business and what made you to decide to do a podcast specifically.
Well, first of all, I love podcasts. I mean, I'm literally an addict. I'm always listening to podcasts, no matter what I'm doing. It's crazy. And so I love them. And so I've always wanted to do one. But even before I became, a super addict, I liked them. And I thought this would be a great thing for my business. And so this is like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember my first group program, the women in there, they all said, like with my content, hey, you should start a podcast. And so it was always kind of there. Now, I had been blogging for many years before I even became a coach. I started a blog back in 2011. And it was like a lifestyle blog, but then it kind of morphed more into wellness and then the eco and the clean beauty. I really started getting more into it. And that's what caused me to really look at things and think, I want to do more than just educate. I really want to coach and help people do this, with more ease and less confusion. So that's why I became a coach. So I had been doing a lot of content and I do love writing. In fact, I'm writing a book and, so I love blogging, but I just didn't want to keep blogging as much. And I thought, Kelly, you know what? You love podcasts. It's time to do one. and it was just like those limiting beliefs of, it's going to be take too much time. I got the tech and all of this stuff. So I had to kind of get back past that. And, you're never ready. And that's what I had to realize. You're never going to be ready to start a podcast. You're going to have to just do it. So I kind of, in spring of 2020, like right after the pandemic, I thought, you know what? It felt right. Now's the time. And so I launched it September of 2020. So it's been over a year, over 50 episodes. So yeah, it was one of those things that I always wanted to do and I just finally did. And I love it. It was like, I love it. I'm so happy to finally get it out there.
No, exactly. And I was going to say there's a lot of pandemic podcasts out there, a lot of pandemic babies and podcasts. So I would love to know, because I think it's episode 54 I saw on your website. Is it what's changed? So you went in with, this is what I want the podcast to be. This is what I'm going to do. Has anything changed, or what has changed in your strategy of what you thought the podcast was going to be to what it is now?
Somewhat. I always wanted it to be health and wellness based, with the focus, of course, on clean beauty is holistic beauty. And for me, that is part of health. It is a huge component to health. So, I kind of toyed with, it was tough to come up with it. I'm sure, as it's not easy to come up with a title. But I came up with a title that I liked. And then I went a little bit back and forth, because it's like, does it really tell that it's also wellness? We're not just talking about clean beauty here. So I've considered maybe changing the title, but for now, and I really like one of my first episodes, I explained what clean beauty is and the whole holistic approach. So I wouldn't really say that my podcast has taken a huge turn, because ever since I started, I do interview a lot of CEOs of clean beauty brands, but they have a wellness story. And a lot of them created their brand because they came down with some horrible disease, cancer or something else. And they realized, they kind of looked at, okay, what's going on? And they realized, okay, it's lifestyle. And then they said, you know what, a lot of it is toxins. And that is what, really inspired them to create their lines. So even if I talk to some, a beauty brand owner or CEO, we go into wellness and managing stress, which is so important. So it all ties in together.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So how have you been able to leverage the building of your business? I would think just even connecting with these CEOs would be huge, let alone, but how do you leverage that to building your business? And then how do you measure it so you actually know that it is, it's coming from the podcast?
That is one thing I wish I was better at or better at earlier.
Pretty much everyone does.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a learning process and you just got to
go
with it. So as far as leveraging my business, I mean, it's good content out there that is, in line with my business. And it just kind of gives me a voice, a platform, and a hub. Like, you can always go to my podcast to get, my voice and my, like, if someone's considering working with me, they'll get to know me a little bit by, listening to a few episodes. And then for me, business is about relationships. And that has been the number one best thing about the podcast, is all these wonderful people I've met and been connected to, and I'm collaborating with them. And so on that aspect, maybe they're not becoming clients, but such great collaborations and relationships, and it's just so neat. And then, yes, clients, I mean, I think people, they come to the website and they, like, I have a free, a couple of free guides. I've got a free intermittent fasting course. I've got a free boost your metabolism toolkit. And, and then of course I have my free guide, detoxifying your house. But, so they might get that and then they kind of come into my world. But as far as what I wish I was doing earlier is I finally got Pretty Links. Like, why did I not have that 100 years ago?
Okay, will you describe Pretty Links for somebody who's listening and saying, I don't know, how do I get a pretty link, or why do I want a pretty link?
And it's so easy. I was like, I got to figure this out. So it's basically, so I have a WordPress website, which I've had for many years because I was blogging. And it's a plugin that you put in. And what it does is it allows you to create an easier link. So instead of this long link of, blah, 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 it's just kellybonanno.com/ for instance, I have a meal planning workshop, kellybonanno.com/meal planning. My group program that's open for enrollment right now, kellybonanno.com/body harmony. Body harmony method is my program. So it's so much easier to, first of all, say that on the podcast. Second of all, maybe track, like, who's finding me, who's coming to me because of this podcast. So you can look at the links, and it's so great. And I mean, I can't believe I didn't do that so many. I'm embarrassed to say that I have just recently implemented that, but.
Well, listen, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I've interviewed a ton of people for this podcast, and everybody's in the same boat of figuring it out. The only person I would say who's got it locked solid, I mean, she's got this beautiful, she's been podcasting since 2003. So, I mean, I think, So it's a figuring those things out. Like, okay, I don't want to say Bitly as an example, to shorten a podcast, or I don't want to say a 400-word URL to send somebody, but you start realizing those things and sending them. What would you say has been like your number one, just you look back at this year, a little over a year now, and you're like, this has been my number one benefit of podcasting. I'm assuming you're getting speaking engaged, or like opening the doors even for speaking for you. Is there something you can pinpoint, like, this has been like the number one best reason I started the podcast?
The number one best reason is really the relationships. Yeah. And so a few of the people that I've had on my podcast, we are now doing, like, Dr. Alpa Patel. She is the CEO of Lavanya Beauty. Wonderful, beautiful line. And she and I are doing, every other week, we're doing a little Instagram and Facebook live, a little show where we just short sharing some tips. We have a different topic every time. And then Renee Bartosh, CEO and founder of Pure and Cocoa. She created the line to heal her eczema. Same thing. Then alternating weeks, we're doing it. And, and Brianna Wilkerson, she's a health coach. I'm speaking on her summit, which actually, I don't know when this will air, but it's in October. Actually, she's going to have access to it, I think, indefinitely. So, but yeah, so that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I'd say the relationships and just a little more opportunities and more business fun.
I love it.
I think those relationships too it's just one of the biggest missed opportunities. I don't, people are so focused on downloads and, I want to have Joe Rogan numbers. I want sponsorship, right? Those like big words in the podcast. And it's like, but there's so many other things that you can get from this that still benefit your business. And you don't need the giant numbers. So,
and it's a long game.
I'm curious.
It's you gotta give it time and.
Exactly. So are you using this? I'm just curious for my own selfish question, but are you using the stuff that or the info you're getting to help write your book too?
Yes.
Is any of your, okay.
Very good
I would love
question.
to learn more about that, of how you're using it.
Absolutely. In fact, interesting. I kind of was down on myself that I wasn't getting my book written faster. And I'm kind of like halfway done with the first draft, which is great. But then the rest half is not even like a good first draft yet. It's like a very sketchy first draft. But now it's better. Like my book will be better, more targeted. So it was actually a smart thing to do. And then of course my podcast will be a great place to talk about the book when it comes out. So, and also just another year of working with clients. The more I work with clients, the better I know what I should put in my book. So that's that too, for sure.
Yeah. So the reason why I did this podcast, and I've talked about this before, but I wanted to write a book about, because we do podcast production, and I wanted to write a book about it. And so then I'm like, well, I want to write, a book makes great stories. So how do I get great stories? Well, I have to. And then somebody's like, well, why don't you just start a podcast? I'm like, why did somebody have to tell me this? Like, I should be the one to know this, but that's brilliant. And yes, I think I will. So it's like, you want those stories. And I have to talk to people anyway. Again, building those relationships along the way. Anything as you're, a year into this, anything you wish you would have known when you started that, was a game changer for you or anything? I mean, I know you were afraid of the tech and it seems like you figured that out just fine, but anything else like you wish you would have known stepping in that, that maybe became obvious because of the podcast?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that became obvious is, you just gotta take the leap. You gotta just do things and not let fear get in the way and not let your stories get in the way, because the tech really was holding me back to the point of like, I wanted to launch it a few months before I even did. But then again, things happen as they should. And, timing is always divine. So, but what helped, and also asking for help, getting help, which I'm not always good at, but I finally so I have the two teenage sons, they're 15 and 19. And last year I just was like, I needed help. So my 19-year-old, he helped make like my intro, my outro. He made it sound so much better. And then my 15-year-old, it's like these kids, they're born into technology. And he'd come in like, oh mom, he's like Google, oh yeah, you just did. What he showed me in 2 seconds, it would have taken me God knows how long to Google or go through the iTunes, tutorials and whatnot. So asking for help and not being afraid, like that was so much easier. And when he showed me a few things, and now I actually, strangely enough, I actually like editing. I actually adore it. I think it's fun. The thing I was most afraid of, I actually look forward to. It's so weird.
That's awesome. And then how are you promoting it? Are you doing extra things to promote it and get clients? Any tricks or tips on how you're promoting?
Yeah, that's something that actually moving into this next quarter of this year is something I want to get better at, is promoting it more. Because it takes a lot. Like that's half the battle. You got this great episode. You got to get it out to people. So I just put it on all my platforms. I try to feature it. And then when I have a guest, not all guests are great about sharing, and that's just the way it is. And, but it's nice when they do, for sure. I mean, it helps them too. So, as far as promoting, I think that the other thing that I was going to try is, and I did some of this, but you know, the what are those things called? The little like audiograms. I think those
Yep,
are
the
really great.
audiograms.
I want to really commit to doing those for every episode. And then also I'm going to do like a reboot, you know, like episode 15 that somebody might have listened to a year ago. Like, why not, why not just do a whole like refresh? And so I'm going to do that with certain episodes too, is, you know, get them out again as though they're new, because not saying they're new, but you know what I mean? Like somebody might
Right.
not have heard it, and some of it's really relevant. And I've got some really great interviews. I mean, I've learned so much, and you know, it's information that should get out there. And then the other thing that I thought about doing, and which I kind of maybe sort of regret, is like you're doing, video and audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I considered it, but then that was the other thing. I was like, okay, I can't let something hold me back. Let's just do audio, keep it simple, whatever. But now I'm starting to do video as well, because I love YouTube. And so I think, why not? You know?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the pandemic changed all of that. You know, being in podcast production, we built the studios that we have, and it was 90% audio, 10% video. We built everything for audio. And because during the pandemic, you had Jimmy Fallon doing the Tonight Show on Zoom-like calls, right? I mean, like, I don't know if it was Zoom, but it was essentially this. And you're like,
Exactly.
okay, well, if he can do it on Zoom, like, we don't need this massive production. And so it just opened the door where before video was like this highly produced, super expensive thing, to where now we switched. We did a complete 180 where we're doing about 90% video, 10% audio of podcasts, just because everybody was like, I need video. So I agree. Like, you evolve into it, because you're going to record them anyway, right? You might as well just use what you've recorded. And those audiograms get better clicks when you use an actual video versus just like an audiogram picture. So
Okay. Oh,
So,
that's
yeah,
good to
I'd
know.
highly-
Okay.
I'd highly encourage it. So Kelly, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. If somebody wanted to learn more about you or your podcast, where is the best place that they should go?
So my podcast, Clean Beauty Scene, and it's on all the podcast apps everywhere. Of course, it's on my site too, kellybonanna.com. That's I talk about pretty links and easy links, and it's like my last name is not exactly easy to spell, but what can you do? Bonanno. So like the two N's are at the end. People always want to say BOA, and I'm like, no, BONANNO.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and they can, and like, you know, they can download one of my free guides. I can give you the links. My, you know, I've got a metabolism boosting guide, kellybonanna.com/metabolism boost.
Okay. Awesome.
And if you can too, pass me the link, because all of this I put on the notes page over at eringregor.com. Pass me that summit one too, that people can get access to also, just so they can learn more about that.
Yeah,
too.
that's
So
great. She's got like 30 amazing speakers. So that's going to be a good, definitely.
I love that. And all that opportunity.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So
Go.
so you're so right. I loved how Jimmy Fallon and these others, they leveled the playing field. It was so true. It's like, and sometimes our setup looks better than some of the TV. I'm thinking, you know what?
Exactly.
And it did. It was kind of like nice. I really, really like that aspect too. So what do you think about, because some people have their podcasts on YouTube, you know, like this, they just have their video or the interview. But what do you think about podcasts that just have like a graphic and audio only on YouTube? Does that help or does it hinder?
You know, that's a really good question. I think I know I've heard both sides, like put it up there, and then I've heard don't do it. You're going to kill any organic possibilities that YouTube's going to send to you, because people aren't just going to sit and listen. The only thing I'll say to that is YouTube has become, I think it's the number 2 place that people consume podcasts. So, you know, a lot of times they're listening in the background. They've got it playing. So, I think with the right descriptions, I think with the right keywords, I think, you know, with that, it can work. And then what I would suggest too is even creating certain playlists. So if you're, you know, hey, best tips for finding clean products or something like that, if you can pull those out of episodes and just do, you know, shorter clips, I think that.
That
Ooh,
becomes
that's a good
beneficial
idea.
too. So it's
Yeah.
not just kicking up a podcast episode and hoping for the best.
Yeah. Then I thought about maybe making some like relevant graphics, good graphics, not just,
Yeah.
like an infographic or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
And then maybe,
Yeah,
yeah,
get
like
creative
that's a
with
great
it.
idea though, to just do like clips, good audio bites that give a good tip, but then here you can listen to the whole episode on wherever. Yeah.
Yeah. And have a theme of those tips. So yeah, for sure. I mean, any way you can use it, I would definitely suggest so because it's there. But yeah.
It's definitely something I need to take better advantage of. I've got all this great content and I have to, yeah.
Exactly.
One of my goals.
Yeah, more things to do, right? Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to have all your stuff over on our notes page. I love what you're doing. I just think it's so important. And thank you again for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was really a pleasure.